63 crept up on me like a draft under a door. Not a milestone, not a drum roll, just another morning. I drank my black coffee, filled in the crossword, and listened to the porch swing's old bones complain. The lawn beyond the rail had given up on being green weeks ago. It was all ordinary in that numb, companionable way life gets when you've been alone a while ever since my son, Caleb, stopped calling. The knock came once, not the mailman's impatient patter or a kid fundraising for soccer, a single rap, then retreating footsteps. When I opened the door, a shoebox-sized package waited on the mat. Plain brown paper, neat blue ribbon cinched exactly once. The handwriting on the label pulled the breath straight out of me. 3 years or 30, I would have known those letters. Caleb wrote like a draftsman, tight angles, no loops wasted, always in blue ink. I stood there barefoot on the woven "Welcome," whispering the name he'd written as if it might sound different spoken by him, Nora Ellison. I set the box on the kitchen table and reheated my coffee that had already gone cold for the occasion. After pneumonia, after my sister's funeral, he'd sent nothing. Now this. I sat with my hands folded in my lap like a kid waiting to be called on. Curiosity opened what pride would not. Inside, the wrapping was a white box. Inside the white box, under tissue that crackled like frost, lay dozens of iced cookies. Each one a small painting, cornflower blues, gold leaves, sugar-dusted stars. Caleb, who'd once called brownies a goo you weaponize, had never baked a day in his life. A small card was taped to the lid. "Happy birthday, Mom. Let's start over." The line in my throat tightened, not quite a lump, more like a careful ache. I didn't eat one. I wanted to and couldn't. Fear, stubbornness, or something quieter, a caution that had learned to dress itself as patience. I slid one star into a small container and tucked it in the refrigerator. Then I wrapped the rest back up. Meena Patel, my former in-law in every way that mattered, lived 15 minutes away. Caleb had married Sophia, Meena's daughter. Even when Caleb went distant, Meena kept the door open for me with tea and gentle, relentless kindness. If anyone deserved sweetness, it was her, and giving them away felt safer than letting hope swell. By late afternoon, the light had gone syrupy, wind chimes clicking at Meena's porch. She protested, of course. I pushed the box into her hands with a smile and left before either of us could make it sentimental. Back home, the empty square of table where the box had sat looked like a decision. The next morning, as I poured my second cup, my phone lit up with the number I used to know by heart. Caleb. I let it ring once more than good sense, then answered. "Hi, Mom," he said, soft, casual, as if 3 years hadn't set like sediment between us. "Happy birthday, a little late." "I got your package," I said, sitting down slowly, both hands on the mug. "It was unexpected." He chuckled under his breath. "I wasn't sure you'd open it. Didn't know if you'd throw it out." "I opened it," I paused. "I didn't try one. I took them to Meena." Silence. So complete, I checked the screen to see if we'd disconnected. "You gave them to Meena?" he asked, voice suddenly tight. "She loves sweets, and I wasn't sure." Another long breath. When he spoke again, the warmth had evaporated. "They were for you. Only you." He hung up before I could find a better sentence than "I didn't know." I set the phone next to the cooling coffee and went to the refrigerator. The single star waited in its container, perfectly iced, perfectly innocent. That was when the landline rang, a relic's crackle through the hallway. "Nora?" The voice was Sophia's, brittle around the edges. "It's Meena. She collapsed this morning. They took her to St. Martin's. She's disoriented, throwing up their running tests. She mentioned cookies. From you." Every room in my body went quiet. "I brought her a box yesterday," I said, the words thin. "I didn't eat any." "If you think of anything," Sophia said, hospital noise swelling behind her, "please." After we hung up, I wandered the house as if careful walking could set the air straight. I opened the kitchen trash to take the bag out and saw a little plastic bottle near the bottom. No label, just a ghostly ring of powder clinging to the inside. It wasn't mine. I set the bottle on the desk beside the cookie, like evidence in a courtroom, and sat there until the afternoon slid its weight across the floor. Had Caleb meant to hurt me? Had I passed danger along wrapped in ribbon and tissue? Janelle Marlowe owed me a favor from a PTA auction 15 years ago that turned into our version of friendship. Now she ran a lab behind a medical office park. "I need something tested," I said when she picked up, quietly. She met me early the next morning. "The kind of favor I'll regret?" she teased, failing to soften the nerves in my stomach. I left the cookie and drove back home feeling like a person who had set a trap and stepped into it. By noon, the hospital had no answers. Sophia texted that Mina was stable but dizzy, still nauseated, still foggy. When Janelle called, I braced for the verdict. "We ran the standard panels twice," she said, "and then we ran a broader screening because you sounded like you needed more than standard. Nothing toxic, nothing even borderline. It's a fancy cookie, there's butterfly pea flour in the icing, which looks dramatic under certain lights, but it's harmless. That empty bottle, though, do you know what it is? I found it in my trash. It's probably collagen powder or creatine. Hard to tell with only residue, but not poison. It fluoresces easily. That's why it looks suspicious. Nora, the cookie's clean." I pressed the heel of my hand to my eyes. Everything inside me unclenched and then stranger hurt. Relief, guilt, love all racing to the front of the line at once. The doorbell rang. Detective Aria Chen introduced herself, sleek bun, steady voice. Janelle, being a responsible scientist, had a policy about notifying authorities when someone asked for toxicology on food. "Mind if we talk?" the detective asked. We sat at my kitchen table, the very place the box had glowed like a miracle. I told her about the estrangement, the gift, the call, the hospital. I showed her the bottle, the single star in its container, the text from Sophia. Detective Chen listened without judgment, took notes, and finally said, "I'm relieved it isn't poison. People interpret coincidences in the direction of their fear, especially when there's history. I'm not a person who wants to suspect her own child," I said, "but I am a person who doesn't want to be naive. That's two different kinds of courage," she said, standing. "I'll let the hospital know the cookie's not a culprit. If you're willing, pass along that information to the family. It'll help." I drove to St. Martin's with the container in a resealable evidence bag Janelle had given me anyway. Sophia met me in the lobby with a face that looked like someone had wrung it out. "She's better," she whispered. "They think it might be a vertigo syndrome, benign paroxysmal something. Not food. She'll need a few sessions of some head maneuver therapy." We both laughed, a short, ragged sound that left our lungs cleaner. I told her about the lab results, about the butterfly pea flour that made the frosting blue as a sky you earn. We hugged like women who had been carrying too much for too long. "Caleb thought you'd hate the cookies," she said when we sat. "He's been going to this community kitchen with one of my friends who teaches decorating. He's awful at small talk, but he's good with patterns. He wanted to make you something that didn't ask for words." The hospital room door was open. Mina was sitting up, her hair a silver crown gone crooked. She smiled when she saw me, tired but present. "Did we almost die of dessert?" she asked. "Nearly," I said, pulling a chair to her bedside. "Turns out we're more dramatic than the icing." We stayed until visiting hours ended. On my way home, my phone buzzed. "Caleb," I answered. "I heard about Mina," he said. "Sophia called me." "Janelle tested the cookie," I said. "It wasn't poison. I'm sorry, I thought it might be." He exhaled a sound that might have been a laugh if it had more air. "I'm sorry I made you think it could be." "I'm still mad you disappeared," I said, "because truths rot if left in the dark." "I know," he said. "I'm still mad you moved my pantry when I was 10. That pulled a real laugh out of both of us, the old absurdity blooming between us like clover through cracked concrete. "I didn't eat the cookies," I said, "but I saved one." "Good," he said. "I put all the blue flowers in the stars." "Why?" "Because you like constellations. I remember you used to point them out after Dad left. Orion, Cassiopeia, all those names like spells. I thought if I sent stars, maybe we'd find the same sky again." His voice faltered, then steadied. "Mom, I've been seeing someone, a therapist. I didn't know how to talk without sounding like I was blaming you. I thought if I made something that took precision, you'd see it and know I was trying." We talked for an hour, not about the past in the way that reopens wounds, but about how to walk around it without pretending it never happened. Before we hung up, he said, "Can we bring the next batch over? I'll decorate them here. You can rearrange my piping tips if you're feeling brave." The following Saturday, he arrived with a canvas bag of tools and Sophia at his side. They spread parchment on my table, and the house filled with the clink of bowls and the bright hush of concentration. Caleb showed me how to flood a cookie with icing without tipping it over the edge. My hands shook. His steadied them with a touch I'd been missing since he was small. We packed a dozen stars in a fresh white box and drove them to Mina with a note. That said, simply, "Take 2 after breakfast. Apply tea as needed." That night, I opened the fireproof box I'd once chosen for birth certificates and insurance papers, the hard, official edges of a life. I placed the saved star inside alongside the card in his blueprint hand. "Happy birthday, Mom. Let's start over." Starting over didn't feel like rolling back time. It felt like standing on the porch at dusk and admitting the lawn would do what it wanted, that you could pour water on it but not make it obey. It felt like learning the names of constellations you hadn't noticed before because you'd always been looking at the wrong corner of the sky. When I turned out the kitchen light, the house didn't feel lonelier. It felt alive. And in the dark, I could hear the porch swing. Not complaining this time, but keeping time slow even, like a heart relearning its own rhythm.